Hi, so this video is about how to use functional sentence analysis to build in cohesion in your papers. So, functional sentence analysis is a way of kind of stringing together sentences so that they're not independent of each other, but they work cohesively to build on each other. This is helpful for your readers because they can use this to kind of help lead them from one argument to the next or one point to the next, and they're seeing the connection between your ideas. It can also be helpful for you as the writer because you can also use this as a generative tool to help you come up with ideas. So, for example, if you look at the content page on functional sentence analysis, it's a way of building sentence to sentence cohesion. So you might recall that sentences are a subject and a predicate. So it's subject, predicate, subject, predicate, subject, predicate. So a simplified version of that might be something like the dog went to the park. So the dog is the subject and went to the park is the predicate. Um, Now, if you start the next sentence with the predicate as the subject, you can use that to kind of help leapfrog, so to speak, into the next sentence. So here's an example. The dog went to the park. Now I need to start the next sentence with the park. The park was crowded. I need to start the next sentence with something related to the crowds. The crowd was there for a birthday party. So starting the next sentence with birthday party, the party took up all the grassy spaces. Since the grassy spaces were full, the dog went home. And so if you'll notice, I'm consciously thinking with what I'm ending the previous sentence with to use to leapfrog into the next one. Now, those sentences can be pretty kind of like period, 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 period. And so in the revision, you might go through and revise it to make it more fluid, but it's a generative tool to kind of help you start thinking about what do I need to say next? What do I need to say next? And I know sometimes for me, when I'm writing a paper, the challenging part could be, especially when my instructor says, like I do, can you explain this a little bit more? Or can you develop this point? Or I need you to unpack this idea. And you're like, well, I don't know what to say. If I knew what to say, I would have already said it. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll look at the sentence prior. I'll look at kind of how I ended that sentence and kind of use that to start the next sentence. Um, so that's a kind of a simple example, but here's some other ones. Um, I most often see the need for functional sentence analysis or cohesion when you're moving from your background article reference in your introduction to your thesis statement, or when you're moving from the film in your literary analysis to Kingsnorth or vice versa. So an example of that might be in your paper when you start the next sentence by kind of calling back to the previous one. So, for example, here's the background article reference to thesis example. As this example illustrates, right, that's a callback to the previous example. Animal welfare is an important issue for many consumers and shapes our food production systems. Therefore, this paper will identify and overview two arguments. If you'll notice that as this example illustrates is a callback to the previous sentence, and then even kind of summarizing that main point is also a way to kind of call back to what we were just talking about, then semicolon, therefore in this paper. Sometimes when I'm writing my own papers, I will start a sentence where I know I need to build in some cohesion with maybe a while or although or as this previous example illustrates. So if you notice in the second example, the topic sentence from discussion 2, where I'm transitioning from discussion 1 to discussion 2, it says, while biotechnology is important for developing new food products, comma, so previous example, previous argument, comma, new argument, Lusk also argues. And so sometimes I'll start sentences with while or although or as the previous example illustrates as kind of a way to kind of call back. You might see this in your paper, for example, when you're moving from talking about the film to talking about Kingsnorth. And for some of you, what you did was you would start the sentence with Kingsnorth, and maybe my comment to you was, why don't we start the sentence with the film and end the sentence with Kingsnorth, since we're moving from the film in the previous paragraph to Kings North in the next one. So sometimes even just flipping the sentence, kind of inverting it. So if we ended the previous paragraph talking about the film and we're moving into the book, we start that topic sentence the same way. We start with the film and we end with the book. And it's a way of transitioning between the two paragraphs. So if I put in your notes, or if I put in the comments on your paper that you want to start thinking about functional sentence analysis, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll be happy to look at any sentences or paragraphs that you think might be confusing and you might need additional help with.